my video. Today we are going to be talking about how to actually learn these definitions, terms, keywords. How do we do it? How do we use flashcards? I'm going to give you guys a step-by-step guide and a demonstration on how to exactly do this. This is how I studied for my BCBA exam. It's extremely helpful, and I'm going to be talking about from the start to the finish. How do you do it? So let's talk about it, guys. So my name is Sarah and I am a BCBA, and I have your YouTube channel, Your ABA Help. I'm here to help you pass that big exam. So let's go ahead and talk about this, guys. Okay, so flashcards are hard to keep up on. They're hard to understand how to use them. Some people learn from them, some people don't. We're gonna talk about what to do regardless of where you fall and how you feel about flashcards, okay? All these materials you can get on my Patreon, $5. I'm gonna keep it extremely affordable for you guys. I'm putting a ton of materials on there. There's a mini mock already on there, some cute graphic materials. All of these flashcard materials are gonna be on there. So I'm gonna have all the terms, and they're gonna be very similar to what I'm putting out on my podcast. If you haven't checked that out yet, I have a podcast that's going through the task list. So I'm gonna go through, when I do the podcast, I'm gonna get ahead of myself a little bit here, and I'm going to try to get as many of these terms out for you guys, but you can get these all on Patreon, and you're going to be able to download these, or you can make your own. So whatever works for you. So I have them in like little flashcard size. You can use these, cut these out, and take them together if you'd like. So you have a little two-sided flashcard. You could buy like the actual paper. I definitely recommend like getting a sturdy actual flashcard and taping these to it, so that way if you're using them a lot, we're not having an accidental faulty stimulus control, which we'll talk about later, and how to prevent you accidentally learning the terms the wrong way. It's super interesting. ABA is crazy, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these all out, and I'm gonna show you my fun data sheets and how I memorize all these terms. Using my Patreon and having a flashcards like this is also really nice because it's budget friendly. And you might be asking, why are those so ugly? Why aren't they pretty? I completely get it. I have pretty versions of our data sheets. If you have a color printer, I only have a black and white printer, so I made a black and white version. But if you want the pretty version, there's colorful ones that I made on Patreon as well. Like I said, if you are wondering why aren't these flashcards color coded, aren't they pretty, I need some cute stars on them or something, that's because of faulty stimulus control, guys. So what you're gonna watch out for when you're doing these terms and you're studying your flashcards is for little things, little stimulus prompts, unintentional stimulus prompts that happen. So if you are doing your flashcards and you have like a little cut in one corner, or if you accidentally do a pen mark on your term, you might accidentally remember that flashcard with that little nick is this term rather than memorizing the actual term. That's faulty stimulus control, guys. So we do this all the time, so you just gotta watch for it. So however you decide to make your cards, I just folded them over for the purpose of this video. I'm definitely making them in a way that you enjoy, but make sure it's all consistent. So if you decide to edit these, or if you add your own keywords to them and you do your handwriting, make sure you're writing in the same size, same color pen. It's all consistent. You don't want to remember certain terms because of certain colors. For some people though, we will talk about how to troubleshoot if you are struggling, and that might work, but we're gonna talk about how to do it in a careful way where you're not accidentally memorizing the wrong things. You got it. We've got all of our terms, so I recommend doing them in sets of 20. I find that 20 is manageable. You can meet your goals in, for the 20, every time you master one and move it into your weekly, if you want to add in a new one and keep it at 20, go for it. You can memorize, 20 terms in a couple days. And also it allows you to flow through Cooper pretty well. There's so many terms, but if you do them in stacks of 20, you can knock them out. Let's go ahead and talk about it step by step on how to memorize these terms. Like I said, I'm going to show you step by step. So when you go to start your study, you're going to do it every day, every couple days, whatever your study schedule is. But you're going to sit down and you're going to have your 20 terms, and you are going to get a paper, or you could just have 2 piles if you're good. I always did this so I didn't get my correct terms, my incorrect terms mixed up. So you're gonna have your 2 piles and you're gonna go through and you're going to move through your cards as quickly as you can. It doesn't have to be as fast as a racing where you're just like slamming through them, but the quicker the better, because for the exam, you're going to want to be able to move fast in your 4 hours and move through these terms and help that fluency. So definitely make sure you're not sitting here going, but make sure you can move through them and you know them. You're not just memorizing them, half butt. So I'm going to show you what that kind of looks like and how we're going to mark it and what we're going to do over the next couple of days in order to truly learn our fluency. So I'm going to show you what that will kind of look like. So that's just a quick version. And like I said, go through that as quick as you can, but whatever your pace is okay. So we have our correct piles and incorrect piles, right? So I'm going to move those up and I'm going to show you my data sheet here. So we've got our little data sheet here. So I'm going to write daily on here. And on my other data sheet, which is the exact same one, I just printed it twice, I'm going to write weekly. For your daily data sheet, this is when you sit down every day or every couple of days, whenever you study, and you're going to record your terms. I have my 20, and then we've got 20 columns right here. So I'm going to go through and write all of my terms on here. All right, guys, our terms. I'm going to talk about how to prepare our data sheet. So when you go to prepare your data sheet, you're going to write all of your terms on the top and you're going to write your date. So I'd write today's date on the left side. So I'm just going to write a couple so you guys get the idea. And I know I'm not the only one that can not spell empiricism right and barely even say it, but here we are. So empiricism. So you just go through and you would fill it all out based on the terms that you're working on. Let's say I have all of them filled out, okay? So then what you're gonna go through, so today I got empiricism correct. It was in my correct pile. In order to mark that, I'm going to just put a little plus. So if you guys are familiar with probe data, that is what this is. We are going to just put a plus, and then if I got the 6 attitudes of science wrong, which I did, we're gonna put a minus. So what you're gonna do is you would go through and you would mark based on your piles of what you got correct and incorrect throughout your study session, okay? And if you want to continue studying and doing this, you could. For me, I just did it once a day to kind of check in on my fluency. But it's your study session, guys. It's your data. Do it however you need to do it. But I'm going to go through and mark, and then the next day I'm going to come back again. So it's 6:21, and I'm going to do my cards again. So I go through, sort them out, I get ones right, some wrong, all that fun stuff. I'm moving through them all. And then exact same thing, I'm going to go back to my data sheet. It's the next day. I got empiricism correct again. 6 attitudes I got correct this time, and then, we mark it however. Come back the next day, and let's say I got empiricism again correct. 6 attitudes wrong. Now that I've gotten 3 days correct in a row, this is when you are starting to learn the term, and that means you're reaching mastery, right? So I didn't get 3 correct here, so I'm going to leave 6 attitudes of science in my deck of 20. But what I'm going to do for empiricism is I'm going to take my empiricism card, I'm going to move it to my weekly deck. That is just another pile that you're going to start to gather of your weekly cards. In the beginning, it's going to be small, but as you start to move through these, you're going to develop a large weekly pile, and that's okay. That's what you want. That means you're memorizing and you're getting your fluency, guys. I moved empiricism to my weekly deck over here, and then I'm going to bring out my weekly form. So empiricism had 3 days of pluses in a row. So if I would have gotten a minus on day 3 instead of a plus, I would not move it to the weekly. It has to be 3 in a row that are correct, okay? So I got 3 in a row correct for empiricism, so I'm going to write this on my weekly form. Okay, so what you're going to do for empiricism is let's say every Saturday I decide I'm going to do my weekly check. So let's say for purpose of this, Saturday is on 6:30. And then a week later, so on 7/7, I'm gonna do my weekly probe checks. So on 6:30 on that Saturday, I come down to my basement, I'm studying. I go through my weekly deck and I'm going to see, do I know empiricism? Sweet, I got it. 1 week later, I'm going to grab my weekly deck that's going to be having a lot more of these terms come into it throughout the week as I get 3 in a row correct. I'm going to see, all right, do I know these? You're gonna mark it, yes, no, just like on our daily data sheet. So for the weekly probe sheet, you get 2 weekly probes correct. That means you've mastered this term, guys. You are a pro, you know empiricism. Nobody's gonna stop you or tell you otherwise, right? So I've gotten 2 correct, but let's say, you know, on this term, I didn't get 2 correct. If you miss it for 2 weeks in a row, that's when you're going to put it back into your daily. If you're getting 2 wrong in a row like this, or if you are just going back and forth, this is when you're gonna move it into your dailies. That means you need to study. It's not sticking. Something about it's not working out. But like empiricism, I got 2 correct. That means I mastered it. I can burn it. I can celebrate it. I can, you know, test it every month if I wanted to. All depends on how you'd like to maintain your knowledge. As long as you're, you know, doing mocks and you're studying and you're still knowing what empiricism is, don't worry about it, guys. Get that term out of there. Throw that flashcard away. You did it. I hope that quick explanation made sense. If me explaining and showing it didn't quite make sense and you're more of a reader, I did make this for that reason exactly, because I'm not the best at explaining things sometimes. Feel free to read through this. This is on Patreon. So I really hope when I go to edit that, I feel confident that made some sense. But like to me, it makes sense. This is how I studied. So I hope it makes sense for you guys. But if you guys have questions, please reach out and I'd be happy to answer them. Some like Q&As here and some trial and error things that you can keep in mind. It's up to you on if you want to set 20 cards out and go with those until you master them before you add in new terms. So there might be like days where you only have 2. And on terms that I really struggled with, I would stop adding terms in and I would just go until I got 3 days in a row of those terms in that 20 card deck. Because what will happen is you'll eventually have, you know, a large deck where you are just struggling and you cannot get these terms memorized. So it might be helpful to stop adding new terms in and just focus on what you're struggling on for a couple days or, you know, a week. And that's okay. That's why we give ourselves lots of study time. If you are, you know, cramming and you only have 2 weeks to study, this probably isn't the best method for you, but it could be a good way to take some data on what you do know and you don't know. And, you know, for those that are really needing that motivation, you can graph your progress. You can see that over time, you could do a cumulative graph and see over time that you are starting to learn these terms and that you are building up your fluency, and that could be a good confidence booster for you. Do what you need here, you know, use this tool how you would like. If you are struggling, you can add color to your cards. So like, it might be really helpful for me to, you know, underline the 6 attitudes with a red pen and a blue pen, and then go through and make it red and blue on the back. And that might help me visually recall it. I used colors and pictures a ton when I was studying. It was hugely important for me. You know, don't be afraid to try that. Just know eventually you do need to take those colorful things away off your card and, you know, reprint it or remake it, and make sure you know it just like this, because that's just how it's going to look on the exam, guys. You know, when you're recalling the information, if you recall it visually, great. You've got it memorized in that way. Just make sure you can also see that term in black and white and you aren't dependent on that stimulus prompt, right? Gotta be careful. Yeah, I would recommend just printing out kind of a large stack of those data probe sheets. And you're just going to be going throughout the weeks and just taking data on those. I'm going to link some things below that you can use to study and like organize. I used like little index card boxes I found extremely helpful to just like have my weekly box that I put my cards into. You know, I have these little containers also that I got like from IKEA. Just little like plastic boxes, little Tupperwares work, you know, just something to organize. If you want to make like a cute sheet, you know, of your checks and X's and decorate it to have some fun studying, go for it. That's another way to incorporate your own personality into this, guys. Another like little tip here is I made the flashcards in a way that is digestible and broken down. I didn't do like the Cooper definition, because if you want to memorize that, all power to you, but you do not need to, guys. You need to know what determinism is, but you don't need to know the definition. You just need to be able to pick it out in a story problem. Can you tell a difference of determinism from the other attitudes? You know, can you do that? So another way you can work on that is to have familiarity with the definition. You can see it and you're like, yeah, that's determinism. You can have the broken down way that you can recall, and you can do that great. For a lot of people, that can be really hard once you start getting to, you know, 50, 60 terms of like definitions, like lengthy definitions that you're recalling. A great way to kind of get around that is keywords. So I put keyword on these cards and left the spot blank. On the document, I would recommend just typing in the keywords that you want and then printing it, so that way your handwriting isn't throwing you off and like giving you that faulty stimulus control. Put your own keywords there and what for you helps you remember determinism. So for me, lawfulness, I've got it, or cause and effect. So if I put like cause and effect on here or lawfulness, I know exactly what it is and I know what it is from the other ones. I'm not going to be crossing them over. It's clear for me. Another way to study is just doing keywords. So just moving through your flashcards a lot faster is easier if you do keywords, and it allows you to recall information. And I don't know if brain mapping is the right word, but for me, I can go from determinism, lawfulness, I can think about that definition, and I can pull out that story problem. For me, it's a very step-wise type of thing. For other words, it's pictures, like for positive, negative, punishment, and reinforcement. I draw out that T and I can solve just about any, you know, exam question and pick out the positive, negative, punishment, reinforcers, variables, and all of that in that problem that way. Explore. All right, guys, so that is my how-to fluency video. I hope that made sense for you guys. If you have questions, please ask. And like I said, all of these materials you can make yourself, or you can get them just for $5 on Patreon. It's just right down below. I'm going to keep adding to that, so make sure you guys check it out and see if it starts to appeal to you. If there's anything that I'm not putting in there that you guys need, let me know. I'm happy to help you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for checking out my video. Talk to you guys soon.